Welcome to Art School Live. I'm Eric Rhodes, and today our guest is Colette 𝗙𝗵𝗴, and Colette is going to teach you about adding dimension to a flat painting. Colette, welcome to Art School Live.
Hi, Eric. So glad to be here today.
Nice to see you. I just want to explain to our audience what's going on is we have a severe delay going on, and we have not been able to figure out why. We've been on the phone for a half an hour trying to work it out. So I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to turn it over to Colette to go ahead and start teaching because we can't interact without a big 4-second delay. So Colette, take it away.
All right, I'm going to change the camera to the view up here so you can see what I've got for you. And I have I'm going to use some paste. One of the neat things about acrylic is you can add.
Can you turn that upside down?
And mediums to. Yeah, there we go. So I have this little chart I've made of gels, paste, and grits, and I'm going to use modeling paste, and this chart shows you all the different pastes that are available, and they're painted over cobalt turquoise so you can see how opaque they are. When paste dry, they turn white instead of clear, like a gel will shift clear. And then this line has color added to it. So this is like a quinacridone rose, so you can see how the paste tints the color. I am going to use fiber paste and crackle paste. So this shows you without paint added to it what it looks like. And the fiber paste is kind of textury, and the crackle will dry and have this crackle finish in it. I'm going to put that away and let's get started. So I have gone to the zoo, and this elephant posed for me at the zoo. So I made a drawing of him and I transferred him onto my surface. And so then I'm going to have some fun adding some paste to make him three-dimensional. And I do that with a palette knife. Palette knives come in all different shapes, so you just find something that you like. I have put gesso on this surface. So I have some molding paste that I'm going to use for the closest areas of us. And I can just squirt some on. You could squirt it out into your palette too. So I like to sculpt, and this was a way of sculpting and painting. And the technique would be called bas-relief, and that's spelled B-A-S relief. And what it means is shallow relief. And it's very shallow as compared to a whole three-dimensional sculpture. But I am making the thickest area wherever it is the closest to us. And his ear is very smooth, so I chose the modeling paste to put the smooth surface on, but yet make it thicker. And then I also have some crackle paste. And crackle paste does just that. When it dries, it makes crackle, and that cracker looks like the cracks in that elephant's skin. And this is just like frosting a cake. You put it on, the thinner you put it on, the finer the crackle will be. The thicker you put it on, the larger the crackle will be. So let me show you. I have another visual aid. We're visual people, so we like visual aids. This is This is something with crackle paste, and you can see it's really thin here, and the crackle shows up when you apply the paint. And this thicker, bigger crackle is where it's thicker. So it doesn't really show until you apply the paint. So I let this dry 24 hours. Overnight is plenty. I have done that for us. I have another one here that has dried overnight, and we get to do the fun part, apply the paint. So I have, I'll just wipe off my palette knives, because if you don't, they will end up being a paperweight. And I have a palette here with acrylic paint ready, and I have burnt sienna, carbon black, titanium white, primary, oh, that was a nickel azo yellow, primary magenta, alizarin crimson, and primary blue. You notice I made the primaries, and that makes it just easy on all of us to figure out what we need, because we need some colorful grays for this elephant. And I have some paper here that I will put underneath, and I like to paint off my excess paint onto that paper. So I'm going to choose not my best quality brushes. I'm going to use a synthetic brush because acrylic is pretty difficult on brushes. It sticks. And I've got a water can with ridges underneath. That helps beat the paint off to clean it. And I have a sponge here that I can control the water. And let's mix up a gray for the elephant. And you know, if you take a little bit of each primary color, you're going to get a neutral. What I do is I mix that up, and then I look at that color and say, well, what color do I have? That's pretty warm brown. I can't really tell. I'm going to tint some white here. And is it the gray I want? And I think I'd like bluer. When I identify the color tone, it's kind of blue. If I want to gray it out, I think of its opposite, its complement, to add to it, to gray it out more. That's a pretty good gray. So I could either thin it with water, medium, or I can tint it or shade it with the white or the black. But that's not a bad gray. That looks like elephant gray. Let's go see what we've got. I'm going to put on really thin and see if that paint doesn't seep into the crackle. Remember, we put the crackle on his body. So the thicker the paint is, the more it might obliterate those crackles. But if I put it on like a stain with a lot of water, it's seeping into the crackle, and you can see that the crackle is happening. And I'm just going to paint his body. And we're just going to discover, I don't even have to be, I could go outside the line. Remember, we can put background over top. There, we can be real messy. But if I want you to see up close what's happening with the crackle. Can you see the texture happening? I hope you can. And it's kind of fun to make some more color out of it. Oh, that's a little too much color. I'll just add some water and spread that around. I'm going to put some other colors. You can make your elephant just as wild and crazy as you want. Pure neutral gray might not be that exciting. So we'll throw some color in and make him more fun. Let's get his whole body here colored. And I'm going around the ear because I'm going to paint the ear a little bit different color. It stands out nicely. Oh, I've toenails, so I will just quick give him a little pedicure right there. We can draw them on as we paint. I left them, I left things white and paint around them because I come from a background of being a watercolorist, so I save the whites. With being an acrylic painter, you don't save the whites. You can paint right over them. You can paint over them with another layer. And so that's just one of my habits being a watercolorist. Save the whites. So there we go with, let's let that dry and see what happens. I'm going to horizon and we're going to put him in the jungle. So I need a little green. I'll mix up my own green. Wow, that's a bright green. As most greens are very bright, we can neutralize it with a little touch of complement. So here's a little alizarin crimson. I'm going to sneak up on it slowly and see if I can't make the green I want. And then I can put in the background. You see, we can paint afterwards. And even though it's a little wet right now, I'm just going to put some jungle in the background. And I dipped into some nickel azo, which is a yellow color. And I can put some blue and yellow and just have some fun mixing around the background. Now there's no paste on that, although you could even scrape into it and make some trees. But that's how I would handle the background. And then I could find the edges of the elephant with the same technique. But more importantly, I wanted to show you what happens when you paint over the modeling paste.
Gesso.
This is gessoed under here. Yes, the board has been gessoed. It's just a foam board. Sometimes I like to use gator foam and gesso it to make my substrate. And the gesso gives it a little grit. You can hear it. It's just a little sandpaper-like. So our jungle's going to take off here. And I'm leaving a horizon line. We'll have some ground in foreground.
Can pastel be used over modeling page?
There's a ground called, let's see, that is made for, it's got a grit in it and it is perfect for pastel. Many of these grounds are absorbent, so you can use watercolor, pastel, and of course acrylic over them. And oil, they're really good for gesso, of course, is what you have on your canvas, and it is an acrylic gesso that most canvases are covered with.
They can't see the top of your canvas. There you go.
Better. So I've just made a background in here, and we can now put some color over the modeling paste that's here. So I'm going to go back to my gray. I'm going to warm it up slightly with a little yellow in it, just so that it's different. And I could use a bigger brush, but I'm doing a lot of water and it's more like a stain to cover this. Let's give him a little sunshine up here. There's some real yellow. looks slightly green. So if I don't like it, I can all back over it with another layer. I dipped into a little white there to see what happens. I want it to be sunny at the top. So I'm giving it a little tinted yellow at the top. So when you add white to a color, it's a tint. When you add black to a color, it's a shade. When you add gray to a color, it's a. Those are the art terms to use. So let's see what happens here. And trunk is a tube, right? So you remember how to shape a tube. It would have a dark core shadow down the middle and be slightly lighter as it curves around that tube. So we'll try to do that as we put there. I clean out my brush. I'm just spreading it on water on the sides and making it darkest in the core shadow. So his other ear, we want it to look like it's behind this one. And the modeling paste itself will make it look like that because it is three-dimensional. It's stair-stepped. Let's see. I'm going to warm it up with a little burnt sienna. Let's see what that looks like. I can let it be a little mottled. Is sunlight backlighting the edge of this? So I'm going to mix up a little tinted yellow and put that edge on. And that might be a job better left when it's dry. It won't run like the. So he's starting to look like an elephant. Let's give him a highlight edge. I'm doing a white and yellow, like the sun is just touching the edge of him. And to make that show up even more, how do you make a light lighter? You put a dark to it. So I could make my background even darker. Sometimes it'll take several layers before you're happy.
It'd be good. Let just join to let them know what kind of paste and surface you're using.
So we have started this elephant on a piece of foam board with gesso. Then we added 2 different kinds of paste to it. This has modeling paste on the ear, and we'll make a smooth but thicker surface. We added crackle paste to the body, and it is as it dries, the paint is seeping into the crackle. Look at that if you can see it. It's really got some good crackle texture. And it's very similar to what an elephant's skin would be. So this is kind of a neat little trick of making the skin have a texture. And what I'm doing now is I'm adding a highlight to the edge of it. I'm wanting it to look like the sun is just catching the edge of our little guy, where our big guy is as he would be. Now, I'm saying that to make him stand out a little bit more, we might put dark next to that sunlight. I'm going to go over here and work. I'm going to warm up his eye. I'm going to let that dry before I put the dark in. I'm bouncing around. But that's the way we do. We paint and bring the whole thing up at once. Now his tusks would be white, but I can enhance that white with a little titanium. The paint itself can be quite thick. So this one is closer to us than this one. So I'm going to make that one thinner and this one thicker. And that might take more than one layer to build that up. So let's see, let's paint his toenails. Oh gosh, there's so many jokes. What color are the elephant's toenails? Why did the elephant paint his toenails? I remember that as a kid. So he could hide in the strawberry patch. Well, forgive me. I'm going to make a darker edge along there with another layer, just trying to get some dimension to round out those legs. And this leg's in front of that one, so I'm going to put a little dark. You can see it's wet, so it's spreading a little bit. Maybe I'll leave that alone and just do a little detail so we can see his eye. I'm going to pick a finer brush. This is a brush that has very few hairs, long ones, so I have control. And I'll just make his eyes. I'm kind of losing them, so I like to see his eyes. I'm not going to do too much more because the paint is wet. It's kind of wanting to spread around a little bit. Let's see what we can do about this stamp out a bit by darkening this green. Okay, let's make another little pot here. Blue and yellow make green. They make a very bright green, and I want to utilize that again. So I'm going to take a little alizarin crimson. Its complement. Red is the complement of green. And it's very dark. If I used a brighter red, like the primary red or a cadmium, it would not be as dark because those colors aren't dark. They don't have as deep a range of value. And we want dark right here to show up the light sun edge. And maybe I'll move the horizon down a little bit. That even helps a little bit. The space there between his legs. The background is just abstract fun. I'm going to leave it very washy and out of focus. We want your focus to be on the star of the show, our elephant here. Let's darken some of this area so that his ear shows up. And I am using the same brush the whole time. You could change brushes for different shapes, but I find that a round, pointed round is pretty versatile. I can get detail and I can press down and get a pretty good swath. So I haven't changed brushes, but you could. You could do lots of things, and that's the fun of art. Do lots of things. So making this darker is helping pop out the elephant. Here's another great green with acrylic. I've got black and I've got yellow. One would not think that would be a great green, but it is. Black and yellow make a great green. So I'm going to vary the colors. I like to make a lot of variation. So not just one solid color. If I do that, it kind of looks like wallpaper. Notice I don't even clean my brush out as I scoop between the colors. Unless I need a real clear color, that's not important. I like the colors to mix on the surface. Makes a livelier look. That made him pop out a little bit more. Let's do the foreground. I want something different. Let's make it a little bit warmer gray. This is burnt sienna. And I'll put a little blue in it. And I'm going to tint it a little bit. Back and forth, back and forth. Now I'm going to shade it a little bit. That's why there's so many colors that you can buy straight out of the tube. Then you don't have to mix. But I don't mind mixing and using a limited palette. By doing that, it hopefully harmonizes and unifies the painting. Now, I've been painting about 1 inch here, and I want to change it. Let's lighten it. Warm it up a little bit. So something's happening between the very closest part and the very farthest part. And I'm going to carefully go around his trunk. And as it goes back, I want it darker. And I kind of went over here and over here because if it goes behind, to come out the other side is the same color. So that's why I kind of did that. And maybe I'll continue that so that we have a color that relates to each other. And I don't need a really strong horizon, so I'm kind of losing that there. Let's keep going here. Kind of bouncing back and forth so that I keep the horizon dark. And then forward, we'll ever so slightly warm it up and lighten it. And we'll see if we like that change. And remember, if we don't like it, we can paint right over it with something else. Acrylic paint is just the most flexible paint, and literally flexible. It's a form of polymer. So when you're finished, you hadn't painted it on something rigid like this, you could roll it up. It's flexible. And be careful with that too. You do not want to leave acrylic paintings front to front. They might stick to each other. It's not unheard of to go painting outside and leave your paintings front to front, and they might stick together forever. So you don't put acrylic paintings front to front. Put something in between them, like a freezer paper or something that will prevent that from happening. Okay, if perhaps that something like that happens and they stick to each other, you could get a hair dryer out and heat it, and it might be able to separate. But the easiest thing is not to have it happen in the first place. So I put a little burnt sienna to warm up the foreground as he's coming out of the mist there. And I can see we have some value issues. So I would like to look at my original and notice the darknesses that bring out the lights. So let's try mixing up a little gray again. There's just black and white. And we can even compare just black and white gray and see if we like it as well as the colorful gray we mixed up. I'm going to find dusk by putting a dark in around. And he's got a little indentation there. So I put in some color, and I'm going to just soften it with my brush. Oh, see how it's spreading? It's still pretty. I can use that down here to my advantage and spread it out. But up there where I was wanting to hold an edge, that might need to wait for it to dry. But let's start to model this. When we first started, we put modeling paste and crackle paste and made an actual texture. Now I'm using paint and painting light and dark to make an implied texture. I'm creating the roundness by putting values. So a couple of things we're doing there. Actual texture versus implied texture. And here you can see that our little sunlit edge shows better because there's a dark next to it. Let's, he's got this Thanksgiving belly full of food. Let's bring that a little bit by putting a dark next to it. And it actually paints really easy because I've got a very subtle shelf built there already with that molding paste. Make this just a little bit darker. And you can make layer upon layer until your heart is happy. This leg also is behind that little hanging down pouch. This little elephant, quite as fit as some elephants. He's kind of got a low hanging there. Let's make this one darker behind that leg. And let's make this leg come out in front of that one, and we'll test it and see if it will let me make a hard edge there if it's still pretty wet. And it is pretty wet. That darker color is seeping into the crackle and is showing even better. Let's so I look at the original here, the photograph, and decide which, there's a line here between ear and face. And it looks like it's about the same value. But I want it to show up a little better, so I'm going to make it just a little darker. And let's make this ear behind his head a little bit darker. Got some little white happening from the edge of the modeling. And we're subtly building up textures, or not textures, but values to show the roundness, the form of this beautiful creature. I did a series of animals with molding pastes and gels, just having some fun with the different things. Some of the products can't have, well, they have different surface finishes. One complaint with acrylic is it's a matte finish. Well, you can change that by what you put over the surface. You can put some gloss or matte finish. The whole surface has the same quality. But I took the gloss and the matte and put them in different places. For example, here's this is a Western grebe, is that kind of duck, and I put gloss varnish, water, and his eye, and put matte over his body so that when this is viewed at the right angle, it looks like water and body. This is very heavy. It's called asphalt. It is a paste that has grit added to it. So this is actually a troweled on surface, just like the molding paste. And it's, as it dries, it's doing some really interesting texture in there. And I find with acrylic, and especially these where you're playing all these different things, tomorrow this will look so much better and so cool. That's when you want to look at the painting, is tomorrow.
Take a break for a minute and get back to Eric.
Okay, let's let that dry. Back to me. Okay, great. I am so looking forward to Acrylic Live. It's going to be so fun. You know, I have not missed very many of the live programs. I go to all of them and I learn something from every one. Of course, watercolor is a favorite, but we just finished Realism Live. That was so wonderful. What a great job the Streamline team did. I was just so excited and learned. I've been an artist all my life, and I still learn things. It's amazing. That's why we do art. We always will learn things because as we go along in our journey of painting, we become different people with our skill level and our likes and our tastes, and everybody has something to share. And it's just fantastic to be able to access what other artists are doing and what's going on in their heads. So those live programs are terrific. What a gift it has been to be a part of them. So I'm just putting on just a few more lights and darks. I could put some excitement back in the jungle. Like maybe there's some things growing back there. Some spots of light. Maybe they're leaves. Maybe they're just sunspots. What they are, little pieces of excitement. I don't want it too exciting. I don't want to take away from the star of the show, but he is such, well, let's face it, you can't ignore the elephant in the room, right? It's hard to steal the show from that guy. So a little bit of entertainment for our eyes, and I would probably push these yellows to be a little bit brighter. And I would probably push these shadows to be a little bit darker. And I just keep pushing and pulling. And hopefully we would come up with the elephant that we want to see. I would keep giving him some details. Maybe this flap of skin comes in front of that one. But at this point, I need to layer it. I have another one to show you what it looks like when it's all dry and done the next day. And this one here, can you see that there? Let's get that where you can see it. He's the finished product where you can see the darks against. And this one, I can feel the surface. It was painted on something really smooth like gator board. I love gator board, and it makes a great surface. Also, we have a frame shop, and I'm repairing canvases. I like those hard substrates that people can't poke a hole through. So I use a lot of that when I'm painting. But got the lots of detail. Crackler is working very nicely. And the smooth gives your eye a little resting place too. So not everything has to be busy, because it's nice to have a little area to rest.
Closer to the camera so they can hold better.
Let's see if you can see the crackle on and the surface. Sometimes at an angle, you can maybe see that he's quite dimensional. It's just kind of some fun, and you don't see a lot of it done. Makes it different. Are there any questions in the chat room, Eric, that need to be addressed?
No, nothing in there.
Okay. Well, you can see I painted on some details in the jungle, maybe turned some of it into a bush. I added a shadow that is going away from the light coming in from the side. So the shadow would be coming away from it, going this way. Shall we continue to paint on this one?
Sure.
Our crackle's coming along very nicely in here. Well, I'm sorry that the microphone was being a mystery today. I missed having interaction, but I know that we'll get to interact at another time and place, maybe even at Acrylic Live. And if you ever want to find me, I do classes at artcenter.com, and some more about paste, mediums, and gels that can add a lot of dimension and fun to your acrylic paintings. Let's see if we can create some dimension here and make a middle ground, or foreground, middle ground, and background. That's always a good recipe for here's a little bit of a in front. Let's go ahead and make that. It's also helping make a dark next to the elephant. So wherever I see a pencil line, that tells me that I haven't got enough darkness next to that pencil line to make it disappear. So I'll keep mixing up some dark green. And wherever I want the elephant to appear lighter, like these shadows, I make it darker next to it.
Somebody just said crackle would be fun on an older person's portrait.
Oh, it could be. It sure could be. Yeah, think of things you could use crackle. I came up with the elephant skin, and you may come up with some other great ideas. It's a little bit of serendipity on how it happens, but the more you practice, the more you can get it to do what you expect it to do. So I'm just going back and forth, and needs a little attention. And the finishing becomes style. You can make it as realistic or as loose as you want to. And I kind of like to be a loose painter. Once the paint says what I want it to say, I'm happy to leave it at that. I love the impressionist work where you see something across the room and you get up close and it's just brush strokes. That's just magic. So
Do we
I like to
have any idea how archival the crackle is?
Yes, I believe that Golden has a fantastic website, and you can get on their site and are chemical nerds which give you so much information, and it's all mind bending. I like to read it, but then I start to but they have created products that are archival for our use, for sure. That's why some people go to the hardware store and buy things that do a similar thing, like drywall mud instead of modeling paste. Things at the hardware store are not artist grade and not artist quality. So I know that artists need to save money, but it is really best to use a tried and tested product like that of an art company like Golden that art grade materials. Go to the art store. We need to support art stores. Don't try to get by with hardware.
Okay, Colette, we're going to wrap it up. I know this is a 4-second delay to get to you, but wrap it up and say goodbye, and then I'll come back on.
Okay.
Well, this is Colette's hand. There we are. So Colette, thank you so much.
So thanks so much for allowing me to paint with you today.
All right, terrific. Okay, everybody, thumbs up and applause for Colette Pitcher. Okay, so my apologies for the technical delays today. It's all my fault. Our producer is out sick today, and I did it on my own, and I completely screwed it up. So my apologies to Colette. And I hope you got a good lesson from that. It was a good lesson. I just couldn't interact, which probably made it better. And so thank you again to Colette, and thank you to you guys. I understand the sound was off when I mentioned a couple things before. So we have Acrylic Live coming up. That's 3 days, and a 4th day, which is Essentials Day on March 26th. Some of the top acrylic painters in the world, and more to be announced. And so you don't want to miss that. We have a Watercolor Live coming up in January, the 22nd through the 24th. And you don't want to miss that. It's all online. You don't have to travel. The Plein Air Convention is coming May 19th through 23rd in Lake Tahoe. There's only 200 seats left to that, last I checked. And so that's booming. And then let's see, what else? I have, oh yeah, there's one other thing I wanted to tell you guys about. And that is we have Art Business Mastery Day. It's on January 10th, and it is designed to help you plan a successful 2025, whether you want to crush it and make a full-time living and make a lot more money, or whether you just want to bring in a couple extra bucks a month. We're going to walk you through all the principles you need and help you understand art marketing and art business. We've got some guests that we're going to be announcing, and it's a full day, and it's only $47. That's the early bird price. And there are other options on there as well when you check it out. But this, if you are even thinking about selling artwork, you really should just get signed up. And the price goes up on December 31st. And so you've got a little time to decide. We're expecting well over 1,000 people, and we've got several hundred that are already signed up. So that's Art Business Mastery Day with me and my friends who are going to teach you about art business. So check that out. Last but not least, and this is going to sell out here soon too, my Winter Art Escape, which is going to take place in St. Augustine during the harsh February winter, when it's snow and icy where a lot of you live. So come to St. Augustine and hang out with us and paint for a week. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have some special things. Each one of our events is a little different. We have some special things planned, and you don't want to miss that. Okay, well, again, apologies to Colette for today. Tech issues, my bad. I'll get in trouble later. My boss is going to call me and yell at me. I just know it's going to happen. But that's it. Hey, thanks for saying things in the comments and for being here every day. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. I was starting to sound like somebody reading a teleprompter. Anyway, hope you'll join us every weekday. And normally we don't have these sound problems, but make sure to visit Colette's website. We put that information into the chat, and she also mentioned it online. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.